Okay, the Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting is now commenced. So it is August 28th at 4 p.m. This meeting is being held virtually. For those who are participating remotely, we ask to mute yourselves to call upon to speak to avoid background noise, feedback. For those who have dialed in using a call-in number to speak, dial *6 on your phone. And we ask you only use the chat function to request to speak. Also, to comply with our state open meeting laws, attendance and votes be done by way of roll call using audio. So first we have the call to audience, which we don't have any audience members. So do any of you want to say anything in the call to audience? Okay. HCD update, Sarah.
I forgot that I was supposed to do this.
You want to wait till later?
Yeah, let's wait till, can we move it to the end and I'll prepare my comments.
Maggie, any objection with moving that to the end of the agenda?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so follow up on previous recommendations sent to mayor and council. This one's me. So I don't remember what this is. I think, so the four recommendations that we had sent out previously, I actually feel like we're making some progress on. Let me pull them up. Should have had this ready. I apologize.
Let me make you a co-host. If I can find you.
Okay.
Okay, you're co-host,
So,
Jim.
yeah, I don't need to necessarily pull them up. I just want to make sure I state
Okay.
it correctly.
Okay.
So the first one was to reinstate the housing trust fund, which kind of has been done, right, Sarah? Using home funds for the
No,
most part.
we haven't reinstated the housing trust fund. I gave you guys a presentation about it.
That's right.
We've discussed it, but there's been no action taken since the last time we came to you all.
Do you think, I mean, given where the budget constraints are for the city, do you think that's being shelved for now?
No, I don't think so, because there was talk of this. Well, yesterday there was this I think it was yesterday, the sales tax proposal that went to mayor and council for study session, and affordable housing is included in that. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that during the update, but I think that the housing trust fund, I think there's still ways to put money into it. It wouldn't be, city general fund, but there's other creative ways. And if there's a bond or a tax, I think it could still go forward. So I don't think anything's shelved on the top far shelf. I just think it's like being on pause for right now.
So this half-cent sales tax proposal that everybody's talking about lately, is that would be part of funding is that fair statement? That'd be part of funding the housing trust fund, or?
I don't know officially yet, but I don't think the details of all of the different, exactly what programs all of the items would be going into, but I would imagine that would be a place that some of the funding would go to.
Because we're going to be talking about that, maybe not at this next full commission meeting, but the following one. My understanding, is that right? Half-cent sales tax. I thought that there was some.
Is that on the next full commission agenda?
I don't think we've come up with a final agenda yet. It's next
Okay.
week.
We have not.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's on the docket or not, but Ann pulled me aside at the conference and said that that this thing is heating up, and the way she described it to me was they were talking about maybe putting 30 to 35% of the money raised from this half-cent sales tax towards affordable housing, which would translate into probably $15 to $20 million a year, which is huge. That is a massive quantity. of supplemental funding. That would make a big difference in terms of what deals moving forward. Marianne just joined us. Hi, Marianne. Okay, so we'll follow up on that. So the second item was to direct development services to review zoning regulations in order to encourage affordable housing projects. Specifically, recommend that attention be paid to project density, setback, building height, and a more streamlined process for zoning changes. And that is happening. You want to just give a, I don't think that's on the
It is.
docket. It is,
It is on the
that's agenda
agenda.
item number 5.
The fast track is on the agenda, the expedited permitting.
that's-
In terms of
that's
the
the fast
zoning
track.
changes, yeah, we are working on zoning changes. That's what we presented to the commission, I think, in May. We gave an update and, since then I've had some community meetings. We have more of a framework now for zoning changes along corridors that will allow higher density development with specific incentives for affordable housing. So we're still developing that and hope to have a code proposal actually later this month in September. And there'll be another round of community input and meetings. And I'll definitely share that with this subcommittee when that's released and when there's those opportunities for public meetings and public comment.
Thank you. So the next recommendation was our agenda item number 5. I'm sorry, the fourth one was a fast track approval process. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. The third item was the potential of a bond initiative. And we talked about that at our last full commission meeting. And Dan Sullivan from Pima County joined us. We talked about potentially having a joint meeting between our two commissions. I think we need to follow up with that. I was going to ask Marcos, can you help kind of be on point from our side in terms of getting something like that coordinated? I'm doing
Yeah.
that.
Sure, yeah, help. Yeah, Cassie was working on that, right? I think. from
Yeah.
our end.
I'll chime in. Cassie, I sit on the CWD work group that they've created. That's like this little subcommittee,
Mhm.
but not an official subcommittee, but and I think one of the topics that we discuss is creating this somehow joint thing. So we are still working through what that means and more to come as we continue the discussions.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess in general terms, I feel like we're making good progress. One of the things I think for our next commission meeting, this next commission meeting is going to be my last as the chair. And I'm going to probably pull together a quick presentation just to talk about some of our accomplishments and some of our wins over the first 4 years. But I do feel like we've made a big impact on the amount of affordable housing projects in Tucson. One of the things that was on this list in mayor and council was the total LIHTC awards by year and then the percentage that went to Pima County. And Pima County over the between 2017 and 2022 received 9.9% of the tax credit awards. Pima County has 14% of the state's population. I think over the last 3 years, 2023 and 24, I think we're at like 30% tax credit awards. And a lot of that is a direct result of the actions taken by the city in terms of competing and doing the things that we need to do to be successful. Probably also helps that there's a Democrat for governor that has a good relationship with our mayor. She's able to call in favors. That probably has helped as well. So, but I mean, the proof is in the data, and I think it's good for us to look at that as a group. Anyways. Any other comments or thoughts on the recommendations from your council?
No, I think they're good, and Jim, I look forward to your review with the commission. I think that you've done a great job, and I was clapping there because I know you've done a great job, but I also know that you're looking forward to not having to be the chair. So so everybody in the room understands that. I was not being rude. And I just want to thank you. And I'm glad you're going to stay on the housing committee, the
Yeah.
Affordable Housing Committee, and be the chair of that. So that
Well, at the
means
end
a
of the
lot.
day, I'm not going anywhere and I'm still here and I'll help Jay do whatever I can do to help him in the background.
You rock.
Okay. So let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is discussion of the mortgage revenue bond. We are joined today by Dre Thompson with the Tucson IDA. Dre, thank you for joining us.
Yes. And I also have my colleague Nicole Johnson here. This program is really her baby. She really has taken this program to the highest highs. So I'm really excited to do this presentation with her. So we're going to tag team this one. So you guys are lucky ducks because you're going to get a preview and then next week you get to see the whole presentation again. So so we're scheduled to, I think, present to the whole committee next week as well. So we have a bunch of slides that we can go a little more in depth, but I wanted to kind of lay out a little bit about what this program is, and then we can kind of leave it up for discussion. So we'll give it a shot here. So, all right. So Dre Thompson, I'm at the Tucson IDA. I think I know everyone on this call. And Nicole Johnson runs our housing programs. Lighthouse is our single family mortgage revenue bond program. It is an award-winning program. We run a national award in 2023 for this program. So excited to talk to you a little bit about it. And I'm going to share my screen. There we go. All right. So for those of you that have been in housing for a long time, this program was like back in the day when I first started at the IDA, I was like, what is this SFMRB thing? And they were like, don't even worry about it. Never coming back. You'll never see these. So I was very surprised when this has now become one of our signature programs. So the single family mortgage revenue bond program is actually a federal program, and it was created very specifically to support those who have challenges entering home ownership. And so the central traditional target has been first-time home buyers, but it also creates opportunities for veterans and those who are purchasing homes in economically distressed zip codes, who typically have, lenders might be disincentivized to lending to them, low-income families, and manufactured home buyers. So the way that it works and how we'll kind of get into the weeds on this is it leverages federal tax incentives to activate the private markets, to lower the mortgage rates and create down payment assistance for these special groups. And it's a suite of programs that use public-private participation for housing that involves both the Arizona Finance Authority and your local IDAs. And this is an interesting conversation because it bundles up. There's 3 programs that are really use Arizona volume cap. So the federal government has limited how much volume cap each state gets, and this set by population size each year. In 2024, we got about 900 million. It resets. 30% go to these single family home program. I say single family in quotes because it's not just single family. You can do duplexes and triplexes and stuff, but we call them single family. And there's mortgage credits under there. And there's also the single family mortgage revenue bond program. And that's allocated at the beginning of the year, a 30% of volume cap. And low-income housing tax credit only gets the 40%. And then the way we do it here in Arizona, it kind of shifts depending if you use that at the beginning of the year or not. So we have a bit of a complex system of the way that we do it. In terms of advocacy, one policy suggestion that we've been really trying to make at the national level is to separate these so that you're not competing between single family and multifamily for volume cap. I think this would make a big change, but just so you kind of understand. And then IDAs as an institution were created and empowered to implement these federal programs in Arizona. So mortgage credit certificates, single family mortgage revenue bonds, and low-income housing tax credits all involve an IDA of some kind, whether that's the Arizona IDA, Pima IDA, Tucson IDA. These are kind of how you implement them. So they are part of this suite of programs created by the federal government. Breaking that even further, mortgage-backed revenue bonds are issued for the purpose of creating lower than market rate interest rates. That's really how it's done. So in this case, the entity issuing the loan outsources the mortgage funds to bondholders who get paid a coupon based on the mortgage interest rate. So the home buyer is still working with their bank. They're not working with us specifically. And then all of those loans get pooled into a pool. And the investors buy those pools. Now, if you remember 2008 at all, you remember that mortgage-backed securities was a big part of what crashed our economy. And so this is something that we take really seriously as an IDA to watch very carefully the types of loans that go into our pool. We have some of the lowest default rates in the country. We watch this very carefully. We are very careful with working with HUD certified educators, with our home buyers. This is something that we take very seriously because I lived through 2008, so I don't want to do that again. So this is part of we see as sort of being economically responsible, ensuring that we're really working with home buyers who are ready for home buying process and are really prepared through that process. But so through this process, we're able to offer lower interest rates and down payment assistance. All right. Essentially, a bond is a giant loan. And so the IDA, we take out a giant loan. Every time we issue a $25 million bond, we're taking out, in essence, a big loan. And so if the market changes, we, the IDA, are putting ourselves at big risk. So we have a 6% interest rate. If the interest rate changed to 5%, we're stuck with a product that we can't sell. So it is a risk. This product has risk, and the risk is on us, the IDA. Like all loans that you would take out, we have to put down equity. So it costs us about $1 million every time we issue a bond. Many states and cities help their local housing finance authority with that cost of issuance. So they do that in Colorado and Connecticut. They help them pay for that. For the first time ever, Arizona did do that, and they helped the Arizona IDA with $10 million to do the Arizona's Home program. We advocated to take some of that $10 million and create a revolving loan fund that all IDAs could use, that we would repay. They didn't go for that idea. But that is not what we have. So the IDAs, we have to use our general operating fund that we pay for mostly out of parking lot revenue. So it's a really expensive program for us to run. But we thought it was really worth it, especially as we were seeing homebuyers really struggling as interest rates were going up. So we really acted quickly to use our capital to buy down the interest rate and create the down payment assistance. So just wanted to kind of put in there that it's a lot of skin in the game. It's pretty painful when we do it, but it is something that we feel is worth doing, especially in the moment that we saw in the last couple of years when we saw home buyers who really we're pretty stuck. So the federal government, because this is related, this is a federally regulated program, they have very specific guidelines that we have to follow. And first-time homebuyers are the stated target of this program, but it also aims to reach these other groups. So pursuant of the guidelines, there are set-asides within every bond issuance. 10% has to go to manufactured housing. 30% has to go to people that are 100% AMI or below. 20% have to go to people that are in income distressed zip codes. If you're a veteran, you don't need to be a first-time home buyer. And if you are purchasing in an income distressed neighborhood, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. Some local rules that we've put in as an HFA is we have required home buyer education with a HUD certified educator. We've chosen to make down payment assistance forgivable after 5 years. So after you've been in your home for 5 years, you don't have to pay back your down payment assistance. And each lender has to complete training to participate in the program, to monitor and enforce the program. And we monitor it pretty closely. If we find a lender has been kind of baby guarding some of it or has been, not complying, we kick them out of the program immediately and they're no longer allowed to participate in any future ones. So highly disincentivized to break the rules on that. All right, handing it over to Nicole. Can you talk a little bit more about program qualifications and what we've seen with the results and impact?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us here to share this information. This is a screenshot from our eHousing Plus portal, which reflects the federal limits for housing income as well as purchase price limits. As you can see, it's broken down by target area and non-target area, and also by unit size. And it provides us a really clear picture that allows home buyers, prospective home buyers, to take a look at opportunity before they reach out to the lender. Home buyer eligibility is made very clear through our social media, our marketing efforts and website, that there are exceptions for first-time home buyer, but that this program is designed for first-time home buyers. Minimum credit score of 640 and the debt to income ratio at 45%, with some exceptions of higher FICO credit scores. And this program is available for Tucson and Pima County home buyers. What's pretty impactful about being so transparent about this is it empowers home buyers to take active approach to reaching out to us via email, subscribing to our newsletter, and reaching out to the approved lenders that we have published on our website. So we really work on being an open pipeline and not just relying upon our real estate professionals who have different incentives, right, for garnering their prospects. We also make sure that we're being very equitable and proactive in our marketing efforts. As far as marketing, we're very proactive about our awareness campaigning. Within 24 hours of receiving an update of when the IDA decides to make that rate lock, we send out a newsletter via email to about 1,500 real estate professionals in our community. We're very active on our social channels, and we make it very easy for them to reshare the content to understand what the process is involved in preparing the home buyer for the date of launch. We are very clear and have had really close conversations with our loan officers about the challenge with preparing their home buyer so quickly. So based upon the timeline of this program really does a great job of serving home buyers who are closer in the home buying process in terms of having already identified a home, having been pre-qualified, because we usually get notice within 2 weeks of the rate lock. And that's because the market is so volatile that we want to make sure that we're very on the pulse of locking an interest rate when we know that it's going to be lowest. And we rely upon our experts to really monitor the financial market, real estate market, and help us lock a rate that's going to remain competitive to protect the capital of the IDA and also to protect the longevity of the program. We receive at times urgent requests for housing assistance that are really far outside of our ability to serve, based upon, housing instability, which is really unfortunate within our community. And we have a very close relationship with Family Housing Resources, who provide financial education, urgent housing needs. And within 24 hours, they reach out to any individual who has requested assistance from us via email and also by phone number to be sure that we're resolving those needs immediately. As far as community impact, this is the funnest thing to share. We have delivered 5 iterations of Lighthouse. Each is a $25 million tranche. And one of the objections and also areas of confusion that early on in our programming we've received was, why are you only doing 25 million if you continue to be able to offer this? As Dre mentioned, being able to make sure that we protect the capital and really lock an interest rate that's not going to be susceptible to the market changes is really critical. So that's why the decision has been made to wrap it up in $25 million tranches to be sure that that capital is reserved and that the bonds are sold effectively. Another reason why is that once these reservations are made, it's in the best interest of the lenders like Nova Home Loans, Fairway Mortgage, to be able to effectively wrap those up and sell them to the investors, because they upfront the money prior to it being sold on the bond market. So we take a very educated, focused approach with handling the communications with our real estate agents so that they understand the necessity of protecting the capital as well as maintaining the efficiency of the program. We've helped an average of 95 families with each iteration of Lighthouse, and each one has an average of $1 million of down payment assistance. And we're really excited to report that with each home sold in our local economy, $127,000 is flowing into our economy just with that one home sold. So the impact is pretty profound. And being able to hear the success stories from the loan officers has really been something that propels us forward. We have some demographic data here that are screenshots directly from our e-housing portal, which helps us with managing the strategic program health. So right here, you can see our household income ranges really from a very low dollar amount to above $120,000. But the sweet spot, what we found is $60,000 to about $75,000 is the average household income. On the next slide, we broke it down because we were curious about what that household income looked like relative to household size. So as you can see here, that Lighthouse is really successful at helping first-time home buyers who are really new at home ownership, that it's their first time, they're building their family. And we've got $65,000 as the average household income for one person, all the way up to 4+ persons at an average of $78,000 household income. Here's our property type report. It's unique that this program also allows condominiums, duplexes, and townhomes, but the majority of our home buyers are really looking for those single family detached housing. As far as the ethnicity report, we have seen that our Hispanic community are really benefiting from this program, with 63% of our program users being of Hispanic and identifying as Hispanic. So that's pretty cool, especially for Tucson. I made this appendix here because I am a fiend for numbers. If the numbers aren't matching up, I want to know why. And so I broke down for you and reference here what the numbers look like for average household income by family size across each Lighthouse, as well as including the average FICO score and the average homebuyer age and minimum and max. We also have identified that out of 38 approved lender companies here in our local community, 20 are consistently active every iteration. And I think that's the final slide.
Yeah, all right. So, I hope that that provides kind of an overview of what this program is and what it's, what it's trying to accomplish, what it's not trying to accomplish, and kind of open for any questions that you guys have about it.
I have a
Yeah,
Go
Sarah.
ahead, Sarah. Go, go, Sarah.
I can do that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
This may be more of a personal interest, but mostly wanting to know, I know, like, I feel like every time I've seen the like 2.0, 3.0, I'm like, oh, is there gonna be another one? Is there gonna be another one? And is there a cadence? And do you have an expected, like lineup? Because I feel like a part of this is knowing and educating about the program, but also like if you're not ready right now at September 11th, that, in 3 months, or they do this quarterly, or sort of what is that planned rollout?
Yeah, we've been doing, so the program only works when there's like an inverted bond yield curve. So we're kind of doing it for as long as we can. So, and then you'll see the Tucson IDA only participated in 2 of them. All of this has been the PIMA IDA because they have much deeper cash reserves. So we've just been like program supporting, and so they are planning and intending to continue for as long as the market will sustain it. Both organizations are taking out, are going to put before mayor and council, our, our intention to do it next year as well. And so put forward for volume cap. And really the only limiting factor is the cash. It's just really expensive to do it. So that's why I was really hoping that we could come to an agreement with the state where we could just borrow the cash, and then when we could use it for the bond issuance and then give it back to the state. Because that's really the only limiting factor. As long as we have volume cap and cash, we could keep the program going. But it's just really expensive. So we are still continuing to work with foundations. There's a couple foundations. The Community Foundation has been approached to say, would you be interested in starting a revolving loan fund? Because we do actually get there, when you issue the capital, there is a lag where then you are then able to get the cash and then give it back. So a revolving fund would work really well for this. So we need about $2 million. And if we had $2 million in a revolving fund, we would be able to probably keep the program open indefinitely. But it's just, working on it. And I would say it typically takes about 3 months so I would say they've been happening on a cadence of every 3 months. Wouldn't you say, Nicole? That's how long it takes to like set them up and get them going. And then
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Another element that is factored in as we monitor the health of the previous programming prior to looking at investing in another mortgage bond tranche of Lighthouse is we're also ensuring that our loan officers are handling properly submitting these loans to US Bank, our servicer. We really need to do that because we start losing money at a certain point if post-closing, those loans aren't sold effectively. And so to protect the capital, we really require that urgency of our real estate agents. And that's one element that we're really working on supporting our real estate professionals in so that it doesn't delay our ability to launch another one.
Yeah, so I would say they're happening about every 3 months as long as we can keep it going. And then we are able to announce we're able to announce about a month prior before we're going to start. Right? I would say six weeks early is about when we start to know when the next one's going to come. Yeah. Maggie.
Okay, so I have a question. To reserve, you have to be in contract, right? Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
Typically, Maggie, we have found that you need to, yes, be under contract because these loans are reserved so quickly in one day. As you can see, they're reserved in less than 24 hours. So we've found that Home buyers that are further along in the identifying the home under contract are the ones that have been successful at reserving these funds.
And I would say this is not like how has always worked. This is a kind of, in normal times before we're in crazy times, like this was kind of a boring, sleepy program. Like you would just go and you would like, you could reserve them normally. This is not like something we would expect. It's just that housing prices are really expensive and like cost of capital is really expensive. And so people are really bargain hunting right now, which is creating this like overheated, like free feeding frenzy, which is not something that we're trying to like encourage, but in normal times, it wouldn't have been like that. You would have more time, but in this particular moment of everything being expensive, it's sort of shaken out like that.
I have couple more questions. So,
Yeah.
since these are a federal program, which I didn't realize, I don't know why. Is there that liquid asset test? Like if you have more than $10,000 in liquid assets, are they barred from the program, or they have to invest anything above the $10,000 into the transaction? And then can you use home or wish funds with this? I think I'm trying to learn it. My niece just basically said, I want to buy a house, and Gigi is showing the house right now. So it's like, oh, maybe this is a good program for her. Anyway, so I don't know. So home and wish, can you use those subsidies? And then is there that liquid asset test if they have more than $10,000 in liquid assets, which are, I don't know if that's
Yeah. That's a really great question. As far as home and wish, if those are also, if they are federally funded programs, then they cannot be stacked with Lighthouse. So for example, the mortgage credit certificate is also a federally funded program. You cannot stack that savings on with Lighthouse. As far as the liquid assets, I have not seen in any of our program guidelines or any discussions with our real estate agents that is taken into consideration at all. It looks like Jay might have gotten disconnected, but I'll follow up, Maggie, if that response is not accurate.
Oh, no, I'm still here. I'm Googling it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, great.
I don't
Okay.
really specifically know.
Megan, do you know?
That is a good question. I do think your hunch is right, Nicole. That typically federal programs don't let you double dip. So I would probably say that would be right. Megan, do you know? Would you know? I wouldn't think that would be.
I don't think so, but wish, I think, may be allowable. I would assume that right now the program itself has been complicated. You have to close within 60 days, Maggie. So it is like what you were talking about. It can be challenging for buyers because you do have to close, and obviously some of those programs, if you're not already in the pipeline, are hard at this moment. But home is federal funds, so I don't believe that could be layered.
But wish is from the Federal Home Loan Bank. I think it's still member. It's
member
bank.
contribution, so I don't believe those are considered.
Let me like get you, let me not just like stab around and guess. Let me actually get with a loan officer and get this information for you so that we'll have it. Because we are not loan officers. We just fund the program. So let me get you the real information. And then we'll have that for next week. So that's perfect. And then you wanted to know any type of fund, like contributions that the home buyer would need to have or can't have. That was your second question, Maggie?
Well,
Liquid
it's
asset.
that the liquid asset test. That's very much a federal requirement for, I don't know, for federal programs. And maybe Marcos knows better. If that we still have that requirement for our homes, but I don't. Just wondering.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
let me get both of those for you and get those to you. So we definitely know.
Thank you.
I think I saw Jim and then Marianne.
Oh, hold on, Maggie. Your niece just plant the seed that the reservations open September 11th, rate lock September 10th.
Yay. Yeah, she's gonna see a house. I think she wants to offer if it's not gone. So thank you.
So just, this is something that I have like zero experience with personally. So hopefully these aren't too naive of questions, but on the qualification terms, one of them was a distressed zip code. Was what distressed zip codes do we have in the community? Are there a lot or just like one or two?
Oh, no, it's a lot. We're mega
Okay.
distressed around here. Don't worry.
Okay,
No, these are federally set distressed zip codes. And so there's a long list of zip codes that are posted on our website that are eligible, and they update them fairly regularly, which are the zip codes.
so
Yeah,
one of the
bas-
things that we've done as one of the recommendations that we made to Tucson, which I believe has been adopted, was to establish an affordable housing goal for the city of 15,000 units by the year 2030. And so as part of going through that process and trying to figure out, what is a good stretch goal, we went through to try to look at what is currently in our inventory. And it's really, really hard to come up with an accurate count of affordable home ownership. And if you guys, I think the numbers we only came up with, well, this is home ownership with permanent restrictions, and yours does not have permanent restrictions, correct? So this would not be eligible. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
To
Jim.
be considered.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that, these homes had down payment assistance, and so it was like helping in affordable home ownership, but they're not deed restricted. And
Yeah,
will be
so
sold to the next homeowner,
so
with
after
down payment.
5 years, if they move, the affordability component goes away.
Yeah.
All right.
And there
Okay.
isn't, and just to clarify, there isn't an affordability component. It's all market rate units that people qualify for. They're just getting the down payment assistance.
Yeah, yeah. So it's essentially just helping it be affordable to the human. It's not making the unit affordable to society in that way. The mortgage credit certificate program, that one has like kind of, I mean, it's the same idea. It makes it affordable to the human. But it's a really long-term program. So every year that you stay in that house, you get a tax credit. But for 30 years. So, I mean, you get it for a long time. But again, it's not making the unit more affordable specifically, but it does keep people able to stay in their home for a long time. Oh, Marianne.
So even though it's Federal Home Loan Bank, it's not federal. It uses federal in a different way, so it's not government. So I do know that it won't be double dipping if you're using WISH or IDEA funds.
Great,
Yep,
great. Thanks for letting us know.
you're welcome.
Okay, good. That's good. Maggie.
Sorry. So do you know what the rate's gonna be on September 11th?
We don't
we
know.
will. I'm getting text messages like, hey, can you just give me a hint? I'm like, we really don't know. On September 10th, I receive a text message and I'm just like waiting for it. What's the rate? What's the rate? And then I have our email and social media queued and I'm like, go. So we'll keep you posted. Maggie, I will add you to our email list.
We literally sit there and
I think
watch
I
the
did.
markets, and then we try to find the perfect moment to buy our loan so that we get it at the best moment. And so
Yeah.
it's literally trying to get the lowest rate that we can.
Well, it's been like 6% these last
Yeah.
few iterations. It's been a great rate.
So we usually try to get it so it's at least a whole percentage or a percentage and a half lower. That's what we've been aiming for. So and we've sort of said it, if it's not a percentage lower, then we won't go for it. So we're aiming for 5. That's our goal. But Megan.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the affordability conversation that, you know, a big part of home ownership is access to capital and affordable capital. And so, I mean, that is what you're doing, but the supply, everyone's correct on, you're not really touching the supply side at all. But I would, you know, especially for home ownership, that's such a critical piece is access to affordable lending options. And so to what, you know, Dre is talking about and that need for additional cash, it is, I think, becoming more and more challenging for both the FEMA IDA as well to have the availability to continue to do these, which they have been really important. And unfortunately, to Nicole's point, I mean, I think they're like reserving in less than 48 hours, fully reserved. So that's the biggest downside is that there's just not enough.
Yeah, and that's kind of from a policy perspective, why we're trying to get volume cap to not be a competition between rentals and home ownership and really see these as like, gosh, a both and we want to increase the volume cap so that we can have more stock. I mean, because that's what the low-income housing tax credit is really doing is creating more stock. And then this is really creating more capital for home buyers. And if you put those in competition with each other, it just seems very silly. So that's something that we're really trying to advocate is that we're not competing for the small same piece of the pie, but that we separate them out. So yeah. And I just was so upset when there was $10 million sitting on the table and I was like, don't just let it go. Keep it so it's recycling. And then it was like, no, we're just gonna let it go. I'm like, no. Anyway, I'm not upset about it. It doesn't bother me. Fine, I've moved on. Yeah, Megan.
Okay, I'm kind of asking you to like in your crystal ball, but with multifamily bond cap being fully, you know, utilized this year in the state, do you have any sense? I mean, it does kind of change the position and everything is getting a little bit tighter. So do you have any thoughts about like, what's the likelihood of them no longer having those in separate pots or having more flexibility around that? Do you have any sense, and is there any role of advocacy that either this commission or even the county commission can help support?
Yeah, I mean, it's federal, really. Like, I mean, that's really where the advocacy has to be. And so we've been like advocating at the federal level because they've got to make that decision. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna impact it. And I hope that they move quickly. Actually, I'm very excited tomorrow. The Harris Waltz is holding an affordable housing roundtable. And so I'm gonna go tell them my ideas. So I hopefully, you know, that will trickle on. So if you guys have anything that you want to tell them, that's what we're gonna do. But yeah,
A few thoughts.
but yeah.
Pass the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act. That's the biggest one.
Yes, please. Yes, we have a shopping list actually we're gonna bring, so.
You know, I would love to hear you. So when you're presenting to the commission next week, I would love to hear your feedback on that and what some things that are discussed there.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to. So for feedback for next week, since you guys got the dress rehearsal, was this like too much detail, not enough detail? Was this like the level that you guys was it clarifying? Was it helpful?
I think it was great. I think it's good that you show how the impact you're having on the community and the number of families that have been able to purchase homes by working through this program. So you guys are doing really good work. I really appreciate you being here and showing us what you're doing. And if there's, you know, things that the city, I guess I'd kind of flip this around. If there's things similar to what Megan said, if there's things the city can be doing to help you, because I mean, this commission is basically here to help advise mayor and council on what are the levers and the things the city can do to help increase the supply of affordable housing units. So if there's things that can be done at the city level. That is something that potentially we could help you guys with.
Okay. All right, we'll give it some thought. I mean, you guys don't have a spare 2 million sitting around in a couch cushion, do you?
The city might.
City
Well, give
might.
it back. It's just a little revolving loan fund. I want to borrow it and then I'll give it right back.
I do think that,
Maybe
you
they could
know,
borrow
with
from the
the-
pension fund.
well, with the sales tax initiative, and I need to figure out more details on all the details that are aligned for housing, but there was, a home ownership component in the proposal for affordable housing. So, I do agree that, it's something that we should ask is, could that sales tax fund this revolving loan fund that could help keep this program in perpetuity or something, so I think that's a great question to ask and see if that could help support that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
kind of in light of that, so if you were to receive that $2 million, what would the impact be? How does that roll? How would you see that rolling out in terms of being able to expand the reach?
I actually have a white paper, so funny you should ask. No, and I kind of worked out the modeling. I would actually only really need like 500,000 at a time, and then I would need the 500,000 for 6 months, and then I would be able to pay it back with interest to the city. So it can actually be like a cute little revenue generating model for this commission. So I do think I pitched it to ADOH. So I think that if you guys have the funding for it, I think it's a good idea. And I do think it could actually raise revenue for the housing commission. And I mean, these bonds, they could go, and we only need the funding for 6 months, and then we can give it back to you. Okay, was that?
I know you have a pretty good relationship with the mayor. Have you talked to her about this?
No, I didn't know about this half-cent tax until just now. So now the wheels are spinning. All right, cool. Well, so I have my work cut out for me for my pitch next week. So I mean presentation. All right, cool. Well, this is really exciting, and I'll let you guys know how it goes tomorrow. And thank you so much for inviting us to have this conversation. Really, really great. I'm so excited about what the work that you guys are doing. And even at the beginning, hearing all of the new affordable housing that has been built in the city because of this effort. So thanks for letting us take up some of your time today.
Thank you, Dre and Nicole. I'll see you tomorrow at the round table.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay, all right, we'll see you there.
I'll be there tomorrow too, so
Okay.
we'll see.
I know, I figured it was just gonna be this group again tomorrow.
It'll be a cheering session.
Okay, all right, bye, guys.
Thank you, Dre and Nicole. Appreciate you guys.
See ya.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to agenda item number 5, which is the Affordable Housing Fast Track Program. So I'm gonna hand it over to Lauren and Corin.
Hi,
Thanks,
good
everyone.
afternoon.
Lauren is going to present Fast Track. So basically, this responds to the recommendations from the commission that Jim shared earlier. And we've actually kind of been doing this, I don't want to say unofficially, but sort of piloting this for the past few months. Lauren has actually been working really closely with Sarah on a number of affordable housing projects over the past really year, and worked closely with those applicants to try to make sure we were expediting those projects. So Milagro, several others, we really already started to put some of these proposals into practice. So what we're going to share today is sort of a more formalized process that we've developed based on some of the lessons learned and what's worked well. So Lauren has worked really hard on that. She's our project manager who her role is basically to help shepherd complex projects through our system, including affordable housing projects. So she's kind of gotten to see the ins and outs of what some of the common barriers are and how we can work to address those through a fast track program for affordable housing. So Lauren is going to share the concept with you all.
Thanks, Corin, and thank you all for having me today. As Corin mentioned, I'm a project manager with the Planning and Development Services Department, and I've been tasked with assisting complicated projects through the development review processes, and that includes affordable housing projects specifically because they have tight timelines. So with that being said, I was asked to develop a program to expedite these projects, and I'm just going to share my screen and go over what we've come up with. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the mission of this program is to streamline development review processes for affordable housing projects. So I have a quick agenda of what I'll be going over today. So I wanted to talk about how we got here, go over what projects will qualify for the program, discuss high level the process, and then go into the details of each step of the process. And then, as Corin mentioned, there's a few projects that we have in the pipeline currently that we've been informally trialing this program. So I wanted to talk about those. And then at the end, I was hoping we could have time for a discussion and I could solicit your feedback on the program and hopefully garner your support for our next steps. So in 2021, as you all know, Mayor and Council adopted the Housing Affordability Strategy for Tucson Plan. And it had a number of recommendations for the city of Tucson to support affordable housing, one of which on the screen to the right was to develop a streamlined development review process for affordable housing projects. Then in 2023, the Commission on Equitable Housing and Development recommended 4 recommendations to Mayor and Council. And one of them was to codify a fast track program specifically for LIHTC projects, and the motion passed unanimously. So since then, I've been tasked with developing this program, and it has involved discussions with management at PDSD and current planning, including site zoning, engineering, and building safety, discussions with advanced planning, as well as with housing and community development. So I first wanted to talk about what projects will qualify for the program. And we want only projects that will restrict affordability due to funding through LIHTC or through HCD, such as gap financing or the impact fee subsidy, or have been vetted through HCD. And I know the commission recommended specifically LIHTC, but we also want to incentivize a little bit beyond that. We do feel like we have a little bit more bandwidth than just the couple that have been approved for LIHTC. So that's why we wanted to work with HCD to offer this program beyond just LIHTC, just those ones that have been vetted by HCD. That they believe have high impact, but also have been vetted for affordability terms, are going to be tracked annually for affordability performance, have legally binding affordability agreements, and are constrained by short timelines. We anticipate about 4 to 5 projects per year, and we want to maintain that number at this point in time because we don't want to jeopardize the quality of the program. We want to be able to offer incentives for developing affordable housing at high impact. So we really want to make sure that we're maintaining that number of projects and not overburdening ourselves with small scale affordability projects that might not have been vetted for affordability terms or have those legally binding agreements in place. So here's an overview of the program process. I just wanted to say the overall intent of the process is for PDSD to work closely hand in hand with the applicants to produce high quality submittals and to reduce resubmittals. So at each stage of the process, there is a project manager from Planning and Development Services Department to help facilitate the program and to check in with the applicant regularly. So the first step is an introduction meeting. we have a mandatory pre-application meeting that we'll require. We will be we'll be using the 15-day review cycle for the plan submittal. And then we will offer working sessions after reviews have been completed. And then we will also offer pre-construction meetings. So the first step is the introduction meeting, which will happen with the applicant, the assigned PDSD project manager, and a representative from Housing and Community Development. And the purpose of the introduction meeting is to explain the program, set expectations, and to discuss timelines. Going into setting expectations, we really want to make it clear to the applicant that while we are going to be offering them reduced truncated review timelines and also a little bit extra handholding throughout the process, we want to explain to them that we do expect quality submittals and responsiveness to comments, review comments in exchange for those truncated review cycles. The reason we're doing this is because we don't want to have a bunch of resubmittals and make the process basically ineffective. Sometimes we'll have applicants submit 5 times, and then that does nothing for anyone if they're just repeatedly ignoring comments from reviewers. So we just want to set that expectation that we want to work as a team and collaborate on problem solving and meeting code intent. So sort of going along those lines, the reason why we want HCD to be a part of the meeting is because they have experience with developing affordable housing, and they have experience with specific professionals within the community. And we want them to convey their experience with those specific professionals, and PDSD cannot recommend any firms because we're the ones doing the review. So we want to lean on HCD for that part of the process. We want to discuss timelines. So with the applicant there, we want to go over their expected timelines and compare it to what we can realistically produce. We want to talk about the scope of work so we can decide if there's any additional applications or additional reviewers that will be involved that will add a little bit extra time. And we want to be upfront with communicating those so that the applicant can bake those timelines into their overall project timeline. And at this point in time, they should have been vetted for eligibility requirements, but this is a way to kind of formalize the process and sort of come to an agreement that if they're going to submit quality plans and work closely with us, then they can participate in the program. And then most importantly, it is a time for the PDSD project manager to introduce themselves formally to the applicant so that they can identify them as a single point of contact, coordinate reviews, troubleshoot permitting challenges, and facilitate the program process. Next, we want to require a pre-application conference. This is something we do frequently with a lot of our projects, but we want to make it a requirement so we can identify any challenges up front before any formal submittal. Typically for new builds, it's more at the site level, but we do want to involve building safety in these meetings because they have experience reviewing these, and we want them to be there to point out any major pitfalls that they see frequently, such as accessibility issues. But in addition to building safety, we'll have site engineering, site zoning, site landscape, right-of-way, Tucson Fire, transportation, and Tucson Water. And then in that initial meeting, we'll use that information to include any additional reviewers that might be involved, such as special districts, historic, design professional, zoning administration, etc. And the purpose of this meeting, like I said, is just to identify any potential issues, discuss critical milestones, and overall project timeline. Once the applicant has formally submitted, we are going to do a 15 calendar day review timeframe. Currently, these projects fall into the 30-day timeline, but we're going to move them into the 15-day review timeline for development packages and building permits. We will, at this point in time, we do not have a truncated review process for historic or special districts. So again, that kind of goes back to the introduction meeting where we discussed that that's going to add time. We're going to develop some handouts that discuss the time that'll add to the project, but also major steps in those processes so that the applicant can just anticipate them and bake it into their timeline until we at least come up with something that might be able to reduce the timeline for those specific procedures. One thing I wanted to point out is we have had a couple projects participate in overlays, the IID, infill incentive districts. And something that we have implemented with those is a provisional approval with a design professional. The reason why we do that is because those LIHTC applicants have to come to us before they apply for funding and get a little bit of approval for zoning. So with that, we've included a provisional approval when they're involved in the IID because that does require design professional review, and we have them involved up front so we can again anticipate any issues that might show up later on. But it does at least give us a little bit of an expectation early on. After the formal submittal and the applicant has received their first round of comments, the project manager will reach out to the applicant and ask them if they want to schedule any meeting with any of the reviewers to go over any of their comments, address any of their concerns, or to problem solve as a team. And again, this is one more strategy to improve submittal quality and reduce resubmittals. And then lastly, we want to offer a pre-construction meeting. These typically happen on site with the site engineering staff or a site inspector. And the purpose is to identify any unanticipated challenges that were in the fields that we weren't able to identify in the site plan. It's another strategy to kind of catch any issues early on rather than at the end of the project. And it really is supposed to be an iterative process with the project manager just being involved in every step of the way to help facilitate any issues or work out any challenges. So, like I said, there should be about 4 to 5 projects participating in this annually. So this year we have the 3 that were received LIHTC reservations. So we have Sugar Hill on Stone with HCD being the developer. They're proposing 66 units. The challenge with this is it's zoned industrial, but they're using the IID to actually allow multifamily residential, but also to obtain additional zoning modifications they might need, like residential density and height. Another one that we're working with is Rincon Manor by Spire Development. They're out of state. And their site is at the northeast corner of South 12th in West Medina, and they're proposing 84 units senior housing. And at this point, they have just come to us for a pre-application meeting, so they haven't submitted anything formally, but we have at least had a few conversations with them. And then Casa del Pueblo Senior Housing is a rehab project. It's an existing development. And most of the scope of work involves light site improvements, but it's the majority interior work. So myself, along with the building safety supervisor and a building safety reviewer, have met with them to go over some questions that they had about the process and some specific code questions that they needed help with. Since they're not doing a whole lot of site work, we haven't had a pre-application meeting with them. We were able to flesh that out just informally. But these are some of the projects that we have in the pipeline that we do want to test the review timeline, the working sessions, and the pre-construction meeting. all of the process with them. And then other projects that have been vetted by HCD are the Habitat for Humanity, which is proposing 5 for sale affordable housing units. And you can see their site plan to the right. And then the Pima County Community Land Trust, which is doing 8 for sale affordable housing units. And they're planning on doing a condo plat to maintain ownership of the land. And this is kind of the first of its kind. So this is an exciting project for us to be involved in and to learn a little bit more about condo plats and how we can use them as an affordable housing tool. So that is the process in a gist. I wanted to open the floor up to discussion, any feedback, questions, and yeah.
Thank you, Lauren. I think this was a good presentation. Any questions for development services? So I just have one, I guess, not really a question. I think this is a great process that you guys have. I believe one of the things that they were discussing at the housing forum this last week was, and I don't know how they're going to do this, but they want to see construction begin on projects by March of the following year that the awards are made. So for the 2024 projects, that would mean that they start construction. So permits are pulled, they start construction by March of 25. And I believe the reason that they're doing that is, I know there was at least one project that did not hit the statutory deadline required for the tax credits. So they had to do the state had to do a forward allocation of credits that they were not planning on doing in order to, so that that project did not lose the affordability. It was not a project in Tucson. But there have been a lot of delays on construction projects these last few years, primarily because of electrical gear and the utilities. There's a huge shortage right now of electrical gear. And I was actually talking about somebody earlier today. A lot of it's because of all the data centers getting built for this AI revolution that's happening. They have huge power needs. And so a lot of the big electrical gear is going towards those data centers. Apartments get put on the waiting list as a result. So that's part of what's been causing construction issues and delays. And the deadline doesn't change. So on the flip side, though, the state is forward allocating credits now. So the 24 awards were all 2025 credits. So those projects actually don't have to be placed in service until the end of 2027. So there is, the state is giving projects more time by forward allocating the credits, but they are still pushing for projects to come out of the ground sooner.
And Jim,
Thank you. It's good to know.
Yeah, and I'll kind of chime in on that. With Sugar Hill on Stone, we're trying to close, by mid-February at this point. So I feel like that it'll be a good example to see if we can do that. And does this fast track program help us get to that point? So that then I think we can prove that it won't, as annoying as it is at the state level, at the city, we're going to try to help in making sure that you can meet that timeline if it does become a requirement. So to be determined, and we'll see how it goes for Sugar Hill on Stone. But yeah, we're expecting to close mid-February.
I'm working on Rincon Manor, and their goal is to try to get that project started in March. So
That's good to know. Yeah, that's great to know about the March deadline, and yeah, hopefully this helps meet that deadline. And as much as we know that about projects when people come in, I think that's a big part of the goal here, as Lauren said, of those initial meetings, is to really understand the milestones and timeline that the applicant and project team's trying to meet, so we can build a timeline accordingly and everyone kind of knows what they need to do on their side to help us all meet those timelines. So yeah, we definitely hope that that kind of timeframe is more achievable with this program.
Great. Any other comments or questions for development services? Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Corin. This is great news. So just in terms of, I guess I get the only question, I guess, is codifying the process.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to happen this year? Do you think that's
Well,
going to get pushed?
and by codify, we really mean kind of establish a process that we can then have some materials we share with applicants. This isn't really like a code change that as we're thinking about it, but what we want to do is document this process to set the expectations with applicants and staff. So we're happy to present this to the full commission if you think it would be of interest to the commission. I think what we really want to do is create some materials. I mean, Lauren has already put a lot together to explain this and then share it with all of the folks involved in affordable housing in our community so folks are aware of this option. And, you know, of course, share it on our website and in other channels.
Sounds good. I'll talk to Jay about the full commission, see if it's something we can do.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is agenda item number 6, Arizona Research Center State of Housing, Arizona. Yours.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, again.
Okay. So, Arizona State University Morrison's Institute and also the Arches, which is the Arizona Research Center, 2 weeks ago had a summit in Phoenix regarding the state of housing and water in Arizona. And so this is just information on their research regarding housing. And I wanted to go over it with everybody so that I think that their whole report is good for the full commission, and they're able to do this in November. And they can also talk about housing and water and what's going on, especially outside of Phoenix, outside of the urban areas like Coolidge and places like that that are sitting on groundwater that isn't replenishable. So, development in those areas are a topic of discussion. Anyway, so with just the housing piece, I'm just going to go through some key points. On Arizona's population, number one is growing, aging, and becoming more racially and ethnically diverse. And they had some really good slides on, what that ethnicity and that aging population looks like in comparison throughout the state of Arizona. But basically, the Hispanic, Latino, Black, African American, and Asian populations, they grew as fast as the population in Arizona did. And the population age 65 and older is also growing. And that was 2.4 times faster than the general population. So with regard to housing, this is something to know. And their second one, housing supply is increasing, but not enough to meet demand. How hard it is to get permits. 78% of all housing units built since 2000 have been single family. And the housing price levels in Arizona were over 6% above the national average in 2022. The cost burden has declined among existing homeowners, but first-time home buyers face prohibitively higher costs. The median sale price of homes increased by 57% between April of 2019 and April of 2023 to $423 $1,400. And when they're looking at the racial and ethnic impact to that population, they're finding that, you know, people of color are struggling to purchase due to lower incomes, and affordability ratios for Hispanic, Black, African American, and American Indian and Asian is much higher than it is for white and Asian populations. With regards to rents, this is just their executive summary. They increased by 72% from 2010 to 2022. Minimum wage workers would need to work 86 hours per week or have more than 2 full-time jobs in order to afford a 2-bedroom home. In addition to that, eviction filings reached over 96,000 in 2023, which was the highest level on record since 2008. Sorry. Our homeless levels, you know, homelessness has increased, which we all know. In 2023, 14,237 people experienced homelessness in Arizona. Again, another high number, this one since 2010. Interestingly, Black or African American individuals represent almost 22% of the unhoused population, despite comprising only 5% of Arizona's population in 2023. That's a big issue. And then finally, state and local policy is focused on increasing supply and access to housing that is more affordable. And they have slides that talk about that. So this was just a quick overview. You got this in your notes, you know, for the meeting, but I would like to recommend that Morrison and Arches do a fuller presentation of the whole study to the full commission in November. That's all I got.
I think that's a great idea. This stuff's always super interesting, I think, and educational in terms of what's happening. I mean, I missed the kind of the economic update at the housing forum. Did he talk about any of this stuff there? Did you guys go to that?
Yeah, there were some good questions. He has some real issues with regard to how money that came in during COVID was spent and misspent, as he said, which is causing a lot of issues now. And I don't know if I think his slides are available from the state. He had some really good analysis on those slides. Slow recovery, he says, slow recovery.
I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge as we look forward. I can tell you guys, personally speaking, our pipeline of work. So we're doing 11 affordable housing projects right now as a company across between Arizona and New Mexico. And our pipeline of work, or our committed pipeline of work, is about a third of what it was a year ago. So we are seeing a significant drop off in terms of number of new projects coming out of the ground, both market rate and affordable. And I think what I'm hearing from other industry experts, of people in insurance companies and whatnot, is that's pretty common nationally right now. Is that the high interest rates are really hammering everybody, and I think one of the things that we heard at the state was that funding is starting to dry up a bit. So the bond cap has been reached on the 4% program. The state low-income housing tax credit is being sunset next year. If it doesn't get renewed, I think that's a huge loss for us as a state. And the housing trust fund went from $150 million to $15 million this year. So there was a 90% cut to the state housing trust fund. All of those things are significant. You know, on the positive side of things though, I think costs are starting to settle a bit. I think, construction costs, we're not seeing a huge reduction in material costs and labor rates haven't come down. But what I'm seeing is, and based on discussions I've had, is that, subcontractors specifically are feeling more confident with, being able to maintain their costs. So when costs were going up crazy, you know, workers were asking for more money. They'd go across the street for an extra nickel. And so subs were having a very difficult time hitting their budgets on projects. And so they were adding contingency as a result. And I think things haven't really come down, but everything is stabilized. And so subcontractors are feeling more confident with their ability to control costs during construction. And so they are not asking for the same levels of contingency. We are seeing better bid coverage now, projects where, you know, it was a struggle sometimes to get 3 bids per trade. Now, you know, we just did a project, we got 8 framing bids. So everybody is starting to get a little bit more competitive. I think that's helping with costs. And obviously, if interest rates can keep dropping, that's going to make a big impact.
So the offset on that though, that I got from the forum is that, you know, the gaps are larger and it's harder to score points, and the leveraging is so frigging complicated and expensive, a lot more. And it sounds like it's not going to change for a while, that we are going to go in this direction because money is going to be tighter and gaps are going to be wider, and anybody who's affiliated with providing gap money for tax credit projects are getting a lot more strict in their point scoring, and you know, and so the projects, if there's not a lot of deep pockets and they're not really big, you know, it's becoming debt laden, and I think over the long run that affects operations, and so does the cost of insurance affect operations. So it's hard to pencil a lot of this out. So
Well,
it's complicated.
That's true. But that being said, a lot of the big national affordable housing developers still have a fairly strong pipeline of projects that they're working on.
Mhm.
The part that's frustrating to me is that they're not looking at Tucson. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening in Casa Grande. Obviously, Maricopa County is still very, very strong. I heard several people talking about Flagstaff doing deals, but I didn't talk to any developers who are looking at doing 4% projects in Tucson. Tucson is really tough for all the reasons that we've talked about previously. So we need to figure out how we can get people down looking at Tucson and doing stuff there. Okay.
So can we, do we need to vote or, you know, take this to, you know, the next full commission meeting as, you know, a recommendation from us that we want them to present in November? How does that work?
No, I think with your request, so if you could talk to the Arches and see if they are willing to present to us.
Yeah, they are in November.
Okay, then yeah, we can get it on the agenda. That's not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay, so we don't have to say anything to the full commission.
No, I mean, when I give the update next week, I'll talk about this presentation and say that we'd like to put it on the
In November.
agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will be in San Francisco for the November meeting at the Federal Home Loan Bank AAC annual meeting. So I will get Lisa from Arches connected with Ernesto to be able to do this. So I won't be at that meeting in November.
bubble. Okay, so let's jump back to agenda item 2, which is the HCD update.
Yeah,
Sarah?
I'm ready now. Sorry. So thanks to Neto also, he pinch hit for me. So also, Anne will give an update on the sales tax at the full commission meeting. So it won't be me stammering and not knowing what I'm saying, but so be on the lookout for that. And the Milagron Oracle just completed, or is celebrated a 1-year anniversary. So we broke ground over a year ago, and we're at like 75-ish% complete. So hoping to be completely done by the end of this year. And you will all be welcome to our grand opening or ribbon cutting whenever we get that nailed down. So be on the lookout for that. Sugar Hill, as you saw, we're kind of going through the process. We've submitted our permits. We're on track. We had a really successful neighborhood meeting for the IID. Actually heard a lot about bicycle parking, which was kind of a first for a neighborhood meeting for us, but really excited to help provide more bicycle parking and interact with the community. So that project is moving on, moving forward. South 10th will have a public meeting on October 2nd, which will be focused on the environmental topics of the site. So that is being planned and worked on. And then also we had winter blankets delivered to HCD, 10,000 of them from FEMA. I got really confused because I feel like it's still really hot out. So winter blanket, but we're storing them until the time comes. But I was like, Netta, why do we need winter blankets?
How much space does that take up?
I don't know. But we got them. And so, yeah, getting ramped up and ready for the next season for homelessness outreach. And, we've had our cooling centers and everything going as well. So, yeah, but more to come at the full commission meeting for more robust HCD updates. But everything affordable housing wise is great. And I love having Lauren in PDSD. I'll just chime in and say that that's been really helpful. We tried to steal her over here, and in the end, I think it's worked out better that she stayed over there and is now helping us on projects. So definitely happy that she's been able to do this work, and we'll keep you posted as we work through the process. And Megan has a project as well that we're scrambling to put into it too. So definitely happy to see the work progress. I know we've talked about it for a long time, so it's cool to see when things come forward. But other than that, we're chugging along.
Any questions for Sarah? So our next meeting in the Affordable Housing Subcommittee is September 18th. I'm sorry. Yes, September 18th. And our next full commission meeting will be next week on September 5th. Any agenda items we would like to put on our next meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask Jim for agenda items for next meeting.
As an FYI, I won't be able to attend the 18th, September 18th. The Arizona Planning Conference that I'm chairing is being held the 18th, 19th, and 20th at the TCC. So if you want to come hang out with a bunch of nerdy planners, come to my conference, but I won't be able to attend this Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting that date.
So one of the things that we kind of semi-volunteered for with the full commission was to, if there's a working group that needs to be on point with the county to talk about the bond initiative, we would work through this subcommittee on that.
And you guys want to be the sort of smaller subcommittee for that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a meeting with the county. Let me check my calendar. On the 9th of September. And so I will come with your names, Jim, Marianne, and Maggie, to be sort of the small group that could meet with the small group from the Pima County Commission that I think we're going to create that group as well. It may be the work group that was created excluding me, but I'll work out those details, but that's good to know the confirmation that you guys are okay with being that subcommittee.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we do with our next commission meeting is try to focus on that. That would be, I think, a really good use of our time.
Like this meeting or the full commission meeting?
I was thinking this meeting, if we want to, I mean, we might have to change the time or something. So, yeah, Sarah, if you do communicate with them and we need to adjust the time, I think we can do that, maybe use this time to try to coordinate some of that.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. Any other agenda items or thoughts for our next meeting?
Not at this time. I typed up a bunch of notes, but I have to do some work.
All right, guys, well, we are adjourned. It's 5:40. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you, everyone.